You're watching the Scottish Football Zone with all the build-up and reactions.
And we're live. Thank you for joining us. The Sunday Football Zone on the Scottish Football Zone. We're here. We've just finished a big match in Pittodrie. It finished Aberdeen 0, Celtic 2. And I'm joined by Ethan. Thank you for joining me, Ethan. It's great to have you on.
No problem. Thank you for having me on. Yeah, it's another very interesting weekend of Scottish football after a good week in Europe, and obviously we're not done there. 2 matches on as we're speaking now.
Are you managing to keep across any of the matches, Ethan?
Yeah, it doesn't look like much has happened. It's still nothing each in both of those games between Dundee United and Hearts and Aberdeen and Kilmarnock. So still nothing each there, but I'll let the viewers and yourself know if anything changes.
No worries. So let's go on to. Well, I think we should start with the match that's just been. Celtic going up to Aberdeen and winning 2-0. I want to get your first thoughts on the team news, Ethan, because it's something that I find interesting. Because people spoke about it to me before that Celtic are bringing these players in like Osmond and Anamura and all the all that Celtic need is a few players and they'll be absolutely fine. Now, I think if you look at that lineup and you look at the bench, Celtic are needing players.
Yeah,
There's
quite clearly, yeah.
I mean, there's no question because I don't think Osmond will be a first pick in the lineup this season. And as you said to me off air, I mean, Scales is going to left back when Tierney goes off. So that's a clear area where Celtic needs strengthened. And then you look at, no disrespect, but 34 years of age, James Forrest to be a starting winger. I think Celtic need 2 wingers because I don't think Brendan Rodgers particularly trusts Yang either. So for me, even I think Celtic need 2 wide players. They need a striker because I don't know about you, but I thought the first half Adamida was. I'm not going to say rotten, but I just felt like he didn't hold the ball up too well, and he didn't really bring himself into play too often. I know you can sort of blame the service that maybe the attacking players offered to him, but I just don't feel like he really offers too much at the moment.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with a lot of what you've said. After last week's game, only one change and one you would have expected. James Forrest coming in for Yang. I think Forrest was the difference last week when he came off the bench. He starts, and I thought you made the point. A 34-year-old relying on 34-year-old James Forrest to start. It really isn't what Celtic should be doing. But again, I thought he was one of the better Celtic attacking players. I thought Dyson Maeda didn't have his best game today. And as you said, Adamida, although in the first half he was sort of starved of service a lot of the time, when he did get it, he wasn't holding it up very well. And I think Celtic definitely need to strengthen, and I think it's quite clear the areas that they need to strengthen as well. The wings, as you said, and obviously left back. If Brendan Rodgers knows he's going to take Kieran Tierney off, substitute him off after the hour mark, and he's chosen not to have Hayato Inamura on the bench, that would tell me that Hayato Inamura is not part of the plans at the minute. And maybe he will go out on loan. And for Callum Osmond as well, I think fourth choice striker. I think possibly the same for him, because I think Johnny Kenny and Shin are ahead of him. Shin obviously made his competitive debut coming off the bench today. He looked quite sharp. He didn't really get into the game a lot. It was kind of stop-start when he got on, but he looked okay. And then obviously Johnny Kenny signs a contract extension in the week. So Celtic definitely still need to strengthen, and their start to season, although the results have been pretty good against two tricky opponents, performances haven't been 100%. So definitely need new faces in before that window shuts at the end of the month.
Yeah, I mean, what do you make of the argument that Chris Boyd made on Sky earlier? For anyone that didn't see it, he said after the game that Celtic don't need to strengthen. That they and also that why would they let Brendan Rodgers spend money because his recruitment that he's brought in the past are not even getting matches like Engels and Trusty. I would kind of play devil's advocate to that and say they're not getting in because of a very good Benjamin Nygren at the midfield, and also I would say um, in terms of Brendan Rodgers. It's going to be a long season as well. I mean, think of the amount of games we're going to have during Christmas and January. So it's not about saying that okay, Celtic they've got a okay squad or whatever to manage through domestically, but I don't even think uh, if Celtic genuinely didn't make the Champions League, I still think if they're going Thursday to Sunday, you're not able to do the amount of changes that you want to do. I think Celtic need I think they need. I would say 4 or 5.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure if I would agree to the extent of 4 or 5, but they definitely need at least 3. I think you probably, if you're looking to improve the squad, you probably are looking at 4 and 5. But by the time Celtic have sort of left themselves to do the business, that they're running out of time. But no, I think Chris Boyd. I don't know what point he's trying to make. I would completely disagree with him. Celtic need to strengthen their under strength. They've got 3 wingers at the club. 2 of them you wouldn't want to have to start in a Champions League match for a start. So that would tell me that you need 2 wingers in at least. Obviously, the problem is that I think Celtic just need signings, especially in
Surely,
attacking areas.
surely, if we knew we were going to drag our heels, a manager like Brendan Rodgers would say, "I'm not letting people like Palmer or Nicholas go to Como until we bring in replacements." Because
Yeah, you would think that. Yeah, you would think that. It is really strange. I think there's obviously something going on. There's some agreement between Rodgers and the Celtic hierarchy as to maybe why the business isn't done. Maybe it's a case of when Celtic get in the Champions League. But I think on paper we can see Celtic are going to be massive favourites if they go up against Kairat Almaty of Kazakhstan or Slovan Bratislava of Slovakia. But
yeah, but
it's still going to be tough games, and you don't want to be travelling over. I can't see Celtic really. The last, I think, last twice, that Celtic have played in these Champions League qualifiers and went through. They've scored 5 goals in the first leg, and went over to Israel. It was with Hapoel Beersheva and Kazakhstan again with Astana, and they made heavy weather of those away games. And I don't imagine this Celtic team is capable of scoring 5 goals. So you're going over to Kazakhstan, and no matter what players you put on it, you could have an excellent team. It's not an easy. The travel, the time difference, it's really difficult to deal with. That's not.
And I would actually go as far to say that if Celtic don't make the Champions League, then it's the Celtic board's fault because they clearly knew who they were going to get in time, and they've had time. And they've still not replaced Jota. They've still not replaced Kyogo. They've still not replaced Nicholas for Kyomo. See when Brendan Rodgers made the point on Friday that he's light on the numbers, he's meaning he's light on 3 attacking players. So in terms of last season, even building on that, he's light on 3 attacking players straight away.
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely agree. And although Celtic got the job done today, and they had control of the match throughout. They didn't play at their best, but Aberdeen never really looked like scoring. Aberdeen, just to speak on them, they do look really poor to start the season. I know that they've had the most difficult start of any club in the league. Obviously, away at Tynecastle and then at home to the champions, but the performances have been really uninspiring. Yeah, I would be worrying if I was an Aberdeen fan. But yeah, Celtic definitely need to strengthen. No doubt about it.
Yeah, I think they do, and I think we'll just get on to the match in general. Even in terms of the match, I didn't really think it was up to much. I thought the game was 2 teams that were as we spoke about with Celtic, it was two teams that need a lot of signings.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Aberdeen, I really don't know if Tete Yengi is the answer. Oh no, sorry, not Tete Yengi, Cassini Yengi. Tete Yengi, obviously a Livingston player, his brother. Cassini Yengi again really didn't have a great day. He was obviously he got a lot of stick after the performance against Hearts, and yeah, I think he wasn't great again today, and he wouldn't fill me with much confidence. I think Aberdeen need a striker. I think Aberdeen have come out and said as much that they're going to sign another striker. So yeah, I think Aberdeen is really worrying because you want to start the season well, especially when they've got obviously guaranteed.
Sorry to jump in, Ethan. I've got a few goals to bring you up to date with.
Yeah, I did see them.
Yeah, we've got a few goals. So first of all, there was a goal, a penalty for Hearts. It was Stuart Finlay went down and Lauren Shankland put the ball at the back of the net, 1-0 to Hearts. But then we've also got another goal, and it's on the other side of Edinburgh. It's 1-0 to Hibs against Kilmarnock, and it's the man, Rocky Bashiri. It was a free kick at the edge of the box. He powers his header straight into the bottom corner, and it's 1-0 to Hibs. And also, we've got an equaliser from Dundee United, and it's a response from Dundee United after 15 minutes. They have scored. It's now 1-1 at Tannadice.
Yeah, even Dolchek with a free kick by the looks of it. So that might be a good goal to watch back on Sports Scene. But yeah, I think Celtic, again, it's clear as day that they need to strengthen. I know I kind of sound like a broken record with this, but yeah, I think Chris Boyd knows what he's doing. He is that antagonist type. So I think both teams will come away from today's game knowing they need to strengthen ahead of obviously massive big European playoffs to come, and then the rest of the domestic campaign.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you spoke about Yengi there. I'm just interested because Aberdeen, for me, need to strengthen big time in the centre forward area. I think they need at least two because you look at Nisbet last season, who done very well, and obviously a player who did well in the semi-final, Papi Gay, he has left as well. So Aberdeen need a lot of players, I would say. Aberdeen need about 3 or 4, I would think.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that, and I think some of their signings have looked good. Alcic looks good at points. He showed his talent and points in both games, I think. But I think Aberdeen, they just need to put it together a bit, and they just don't really seem too confident in what they're trying to do, or what Jimmy Tillene's trying to make them do, and that would be concerning. But obviously, they'll have easier games to come, going to Tynecastle and at home with Celtic. That's not the two games you would want to start the season with. So especially when I think they only played 2 pre-season friendlies, so they are coming out of the season quite, I would say, undercooked with that preparation for 2 really difficult games to start. There'll be easier games to come, but they'll need to start picking up points soon because Hearts and Hibs could already be off to 6 points from 6 with and if they're going to be the competition for third place, you would imagine at the moment, although there's some people, including Tony Bloom, thinking the likes of Hearts certainly can aim for higher.
Yeah, I'm just going to get on to talk about the rest of this game and then get on to yesterday's action and then talk about today as well. We'll be on for the next 45 minutes or something like that. But I just want to now talk to you about in terms of the overall picture. I thought that the first half, that there was no real kind of clear-cut chances in general.
No, there wasn't. Celtic, I think, before they scored, barely had a shot. I think they had 2 shots, and there were 2. One was blocked, an Adamida shot that was a bit of a half chance, and one was a Kieran Tierney shot that went well wide. And Aberdeen had 1 on target from outside the box. It was a Alcic. It's well saved by Kasper Schmeichel. But
sorry, Ethan, can I jump in there? I've just seen a goal. It's a great goal from the high beat. It's 2-0, and it's the man Eli Johan. 2-0 to Hibs.
Yeah, there's goals galore, and Hibs look really like they are maybe possibly the real deal. They were the real deal last season, but even more so this season after their exploits in Europe. But I was just saying, there wasn't really much in the game. It was a bit of a nothing game, to be honest. And then the bit of quality from Kieran Tierney down the left, bursts away from Milanovic, I think it was, that was trying to cover him, and then puts that ball across, and Benjamin Nygren, first time, finishes past Dimitar Mitov, and I think that was very similar to the chance he had last week against St Mirren, where he took the touch and then it was saved by Shamal George onto the crossbar, but obviously gets off the mark today, and that'll be big for him, and it really settled Celtic, and they looked comfortable after that. They didn't really have attacking fluidity. I would say that was the problem with last week's performance as well. Defensively, Celtic looked solid enough, 2 clean sheets. The teams they've played against haven't had too many chances. It's just I don't think they're creating enough at the minute, and I think that is something that's going to be expected when they're pretty undercooked in the wide areas, especially, and possibly up front. You could debate.
And I think that's what Brendan Rodgers will be saying. Brendan Rodgers will be saying, look, 2 wins from 2 clean sheets. It's okay, but he'll be telling the board, look, we played okay, but we still need to improve if we want to do big things in Europe as well.
Yeah, because as I think you alluded to earlier, that the games will catch up to Celtic. It's easy playing for a club like Celtic, playing weekend, but when you add in the midweek Premiership fixtures, cup games, Champions League or Europa League, depending on how Celtic go on in that playoff match, then it becomes a whole different equation. And I think you could make the point that Celtic are a couple of injuries away on key players to really being in trouble. I mean, if Dyson Maeda and Kieran Tierney got injured, I don't really know who would come in and even try and deputise for them, and that's really worrying that Celtic haven't got that backup in those areas.
See, that's a great point you make, because it's okay people like Chris Boyd and Stilian Petrov saying that Celtic are okay, but it's like if you get one big injury, say a Maeda, right? Say he's in training tomorrow and he gets a 2-month injury, Celtic have got no one to go in there.
Yeah, exactly right. And then you would be playing. You would probably, based off what we've seen with Brendan Rodgers' substitutions today, I'll just touch on them quickly. Obviously, Kieran Tierney comes off. We know that Celtic are monitoring his minutes, and apparently Brendan Rodgers said he can't expect him to play 90 minutes. So Austin Trusty comes on again. Liam Scales forced out to left back, as we've seen last week. In the midfield, he makes the changes of James Forrest and Rio Hatate making way. Rio Hatate after that, magnificent goal. Brilliant
goal.
Yeah, him and Forrest come off, and then he obviously brings on Luke McCowan and Arnie Engels, the same as he done last week. And then pushes Benjamin Nygren out to the wing, which we obviously know he can play from his time in Nordsjælland, but that would say that he's putting Nygren out there instead of Yang after Yang's performance last week. And then he obviously brings Shin Yamada on for his debut in place of Adam Edab. So, I think I think it shows what players Brendan Rodgers believes he can use and what players he believes aren't up to it at the current point. And that'll be the thing he'll try and remonstrate to his superiors, that he's got players there on that bench that he needs to field on the bench but isn't confident bringing on the pitch. And that's something that Celtic can't have, because especially in the Champions League, that they'll just get blown to pieces with that squad they've got at the minute. And that'll be it. And if they want
and that's another good point you make in terms of Brendan Rodgers chose to put Nygren out in the right wing instead of bringing on Yang. Can he be any more clear that he needs to bring in 2 wingers?
No, he can't be. And he's made it very clear, I think, in his press conferences and his team lineups and his substitutions. And you would imagine that Celtic will get the players in before the 31st of August. But it is strange. But yeah, just to touch on that goal, a brilliant goal from Real Hatate. Benjamin Negrin, obviously turns provider this time, finds him, and Hatate, we know he has that sort of quality to score from that area, and that just seals the 3 points for Celtic. I think the Celtic fans will be delighted because despite having a sort of squad that a lot of them would say isn't up to the standard it should be, they are 6 points from 6, and 2 relatively difficult fixtures as well. So really good start for Celtic, but they do need to strengthen, and that shouldn't be mistaken.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, going away to Aberdeen is always a difficult place to go. So for Celtic to get off to that sort of start is a very good start. And obviously we've seen at the end of last season that St Mirren can be a tough nut to crack.
Yeah, exactly that. I think probably one of the most difficult opening 2 fixtures for any teams. I said Aberdeen probably had the hardest, going to Tynecastle and then hosting Celtic. But outside of that, I think you've got to look at Celtic's opening 2 fixtures as the on paper, looking into the season, possibly the hardest. So yeah, Brendan Rodgers will be really happy that he's managed to get 6 points from 6, because it's good to start the season well. Celtic obviously started last season very well, but the fashion that Celtic have started this season just isn't the same as last season, and you can see it's because they've just not got that strength in the squad that they had last season. And I think they're not too many players away from having a really strong competitive squad, but they do need to address those areas before the window shuts.
I think the one area, if you can see where Celtic are strong, is the midfield area. I mean, people like Paulo Bernardo are not even getting a start, and Paulo Bernardo's a very good player.
Yeah, exactly right. Celtic's midfield is strong to the point where you're wondering if they can keep all those players in that midfield happy, because obviously you've got Arne Engels, who started the first 2 games on the bench, your record signing, and then, as you said, you've got Paulo Bernardo, who has put in some stellar performances for Celtic in the past. The first Celtic Rangers match last season comes to mind. So yeah, I think it is. Celtic are really strong in that area. I think it is just a left back and 2 to 3 attacking players that Celtic need, but needing 2 to 3 players for one area of the pitch is a bit strange. So yes, Celtic will be happy that they've got the 6 points, but yeah, they definitely need to strengthen.
Yeah, and I think we'll just talk about Aberdeen and then we'll go on and talk about the matches yesterday. But in terms of Aberdeen, I was pretty disappointed with Aberdeen.
Yeah, really poor again. I watched the game at Tynecastle on Monday evening, and they really surprised me. I did think Hearts would come into the game fresher, obviously off the back of the Premier Sports Cup. But Aberdeen just looked really sort of poor. They were just poor and didn't fill the fans, I would imagine, with much confidence. And it was the same again today. They never really looked like scoring. And when Celtic aren't playing at their best, then if you can play at a high level, then you can catch them off guard, obviously, as they did in that Scottish Cup final. So yeah, really worrying, and I think Jimmy Tillane will need to get the players performing again, because I think he'll come under pressure very quickly. I know obviously he gave them that historic day, but football moves very quickly, as we know.
Yeah, and I think in terms of what he's trying to do, I mean, he's obviously going to go down in Aberdeen football in terms of getting that final victory against Celtic in May, but he knows that he needs to strengthen as well.
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely agree with that. Yeah. And strikers, the key area that I'm really seeing, and I'm just thinking, but I think they've got the players there. I think they just kind of need to work it out, because it seems like they just aren't really clear on what they're to do, and that's the really worrying thing, looking from outside in, that they don't look like they have a clear sort of identity. But as I said, two of the most difficult games in the league, so it won't be judged. Well, they won't be judged as a team off the 2 games, but obviously they'll need to improve in their next game, which, let me just check who it's actually against. It is, well, Greenock Malton away in the cup first. They'll expect to win that. Then they've got the first leg of their Europa League playoff, and then they head to Tannadice. So that'll be a game that they'll expect to get 3 points. I know Dundee United have started the season decently well, especially with their result the other night. But yeah, Aberdeen will need to start picking up points because they're rock bottom of the table at the minute, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows you how quickly football can change. But I'm sure Aberdeen board will be looking and thinking, right, we need to get some players in to help strengthen the squad. But that match was Aberdeen 0, Celtic 2. Now we'll move on to a big match that happened yesterday. And that was, I'm calling it Dundee Delight at Ibrox, because I thought Dundee were absolutely fantastic. I know people will go on about Rangers, but I first of all just want to touch about Dundee, because people that might go on here on Friday and thinking it was going to be a 5-0 to Rangers job, and I just felt like Dundee were absolutely fantastic. Even
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get to catch the match, but I've seen all the highlights and all the fallout, all the statistics, and especially in the first half, Dundee really restricted Rangers from doing anything. And Dundee, bear in mind, they had 2 shots last week against Hibs, 1 on target, and one of their shots was a 90th minute strike from Dre Wright from about 25 yards. So shows how much that they've come in one game to go to one of the toughest venues in the league, regardless of where Rangers' domestic form sits at. They've went there, frustrated Rangers, nicked a really good goal by Astley, and makes up for his error last week that he had at home to Hibs, get themselves ahead, frustrate Rangers further. Obviously, Nasser Jajiga gets that red card, which he had no complaints. You've seen at the time, it was a clear red card. And then Rangers at that point really, really struggling. The last 10 minutes, they sort of speed it up a bit. And then they get the penalty, which I think is one that could be debated. Sedi Kusama does really well to get across Dre Wright. Dre Wright has a sort of little nibble, and then Kusama gets in front of him and then kind of goes down. I think you can see why it's been given. I think it's one of those ones, it's not a clear and obvious error to say. But I think it's one of those ones, if it wasn't given, then maybe it wouldn't be overturned, if you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But he gives it, fair enough. Rangers, James Tavernier steps up. He takes responsibility off Cyril Dessers, who obviously took the one the other night as the captain and the penalty taker, and slots it away. And then you have that feeling that you always do with Rangers and Celtic when they're playing poorly and they get that equaliser late on, that there's still time left to go and get that winner, and it looks like Rangers have done it. Cyril Dessers looks to have brought that goal to the Rangers fans that were still in the ground, because I know a lot of them had left already, obviously discontent with what they were seeing. But then it's ruled out for offside, and then the full-time whistle goes, and the boos ring around the stadium, and the pressure's mounting on Russell Martin already, because you can say what you like about the performance during the week and how well they've done in Europe, and they have done, but that's not a change from Rangers managers of past. It's not been a problem that in European football has been the stellar area, the standout area. It's been domestically that's been really poor, and when you make Rangers' worst league start to a season in, I think, over 30 years, is it? Then yeah, you're going to be putting pressure on yourself, and yeah, it's really interesting to see where Rangers go now, because pressure's mounting on Russell Martin already. There's been calls from certain sections of the Rangers support asking for him to be sacked. So yeah, it's a crazy world, Scottish football.
Yeah, and obviously it was a big point for Dundee as well, even. But before we get into that, it's almost approaching the half time mark. So I'll just get you to tell us about what's happening in these matches.
Yeah, well, no change in the game at Easter Road, but Dundee United, coming from behind, have went ahead Ivan Dolchek, again, 3 goals in 2 games for him. Obviously, he scored last week at Falkirk, so he looks like a real great signing. Dundee United, I think I was certainly one who doubted their signing policy and how many players they turned over this year, but some of the players, Sapsford during the week was brilliant, and Ivan Dolchek setting up today, so Dundee United leading 3 minutes before half time. So Hearts have got a big task on their hands already.
Yeah, and obviously it says at the top of the screen, but please make sure you subscribe to the Football Zone the YouTube channel, because it's so important for us to make sure we get subscribers in it, Ethan.
Yeah, exactly. Go and check us out there on the YouTube and on the X, which is up the top of the screen as well. So yeah, I love doing these recaps, and yeah, it's great to be back in the feel of it with Scottish football.
Yeah, and obviously we'll get on to the Rangers and Dundee match again, and I just feel like Rangers lacked the real intensity to the match.
Yeah, I picked that up. I managed to catch the a lot of the match on BBC Scotland on the radio, and yeah, that was the kind of things that I picked up, that until right at the end of the match, and I think Russell Martin said this, that Rangers didn't really have that intensity to go and win the match. It was a bit sort of lackadaisical, and obviously they realise that, okay, we need to get a goal here. They do get the 1 goal, James Tavernier. I was wondering whether, after him being dropped from the Rangers starting 11 during the week, and obviously again last night, whether he would do what Steven Gerrard was accused of doing when he missed that penalty that got Roy Hodgson the sack from Liverpool. I was wondering if James Tavernier might do that, but no, professional from him to tuck it away and get Rangers back into the match. And then they just didn't. They probably a draw was a fair result for Rangers. They did create an awful lot in the second half, but just too little too late for them. And especially when you start the season dropping points to Motherwell, you can't afford to drop points at home to Dundee, who are on paper the worst team in the league. There's no doubt about that. A lot of people have tipped them for relegation, and I think the Dundee squad looking in is, I think it really is quite. I don't want to say. I think it's given Stephen Presley a really difficult start. I think he got a lot of criticism, and the appointment was strange. Don't get me wrong, and some of the stuff he says to the media is mind-boggling. But I think that squad has put him in a really difficult place. I think it has been lacking quality, but it makes the result they got even better, and they'll feel hard done by that they didn't hold on for the win. So bit of a masterstroke from Stephen Presley. He will obviously get a lot of support from the Dundee fans, which wasn't there before. After that result, and he'll be hoping they can kick on now, because it's an excellent result without their best player as well. Simon Murray obviously still missing through injury, so and they're going to get more players in, so maybe don't write Dundee off too early is what would be the message from that game.
Yeah, and I think I was impressed with a few of the players. The big striker as well. I thought he opened up great. I thought Finlay Robertson.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah,
the left back. I thought he was great. I thought he smacked the post twice. He obviously scored as well, I think. And I'm just really impressed with what he offered them. And I think in terms of what Dundee are trying to do, I think I think the squad just needs a bit of time, because I think Stephen Presley, I think you could clearly see he was emotional yesterday, but that's because he's been getting the criticism. But hopefully now things will start to settle down for Dundee.
Yeah, exactly. And he said last weekend that they needed 6 signings. I think they got 1 in since then. Joe Wesley I think he's on loan from Burnley. maybe permanently from Burnley. But he obviously comes in and starts alongside Ashley Hay, who you mentioned has been one of the standouts. So yeah, I think Dundee, I mean, to get a result like that with the squad they've got is really impressive. Stephen Presley needs to take a lot of credit from it. But they need to build on it now. That they can't sort of just sort of lie back now and settle for that. They need to push on, because a lot of people still have them favourites to go down, and until they start picking up points on a regular basis, that the status on that will probably be unchanged.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, even we'll move on to Rangers for a bit, but I think just wanted to ask you in terms of Rangers, right? I mean, I, I, I think I've been impressed with some of the players, like Rothwell and stuff like that, but I don't think overall I've been really impressed with many of the players.
Yeah, I haven't been able to catch either of the Rangers league games so far through work commitments, but I've seen all the European games, and some players have impressed, and you kind of get the sort of gist and catch what everyone's sort of saying. And I think a lot of the signings have been successful, but it's just the question is, why can't that squad and the new signings mixed together go and get results against Motherwell and Dundee? It is really strange. We spoke about it after Victoria Poulsen the other night that, yeah, it's brilliant. Rangers have got a great result in Europe and their best performance under Russell Martin so far, but they need to go out and beat Dundee. That it doesn't stop. The problems are domestically, and it's really strange. It's not a scenario that I've seen in football before. I've never heard of a team that's so strong in Europe, but yet so poor domestically when they're going up against squads that are fraction of the wage packet, fraction of the squad value, and fraction of the quality. You would imagine. Well, no, not you. You wouldn't imagine. It's clear that the players aren't
Yeah, it's clear.
the players aren't as same quality, but you wouldn't know that watching the games, and it's a real head scratch, and it must be for Russell Martin as well. Obviously, he's got to take responsibility as well. It's his squad, his players, but I mean, consistently, manager on manager, it's the same problem. The players just aren't showing up for the games they should be winning in the league, and it's really strange, and you wonder what the root of the cause is, because he obviously had.
I think it's definitely mentality.
Yeah, I think it is mentality. There's no doubt about that. But when he rotates the team because of poor mentality and brings in players that should be hungry to keep their place, and they were on Tuesday night, and they put in a great performance, but it was an unchanged 11, and it's the same problem from Motherwell. It is really strange that they're just unable to win when it's expected of them, and the games aren't going to get in. There's not. I've said this a few times, but there isn't any easy games in the league. We spoke about it. At home to Dundee is the fixture you would want, and they've not picked up 3 points. So you've got, I think, over the next 4 they've got in the league anyway. They've got away to St Mirren, home to Celtic, away to home to Hearts, sorry, and then away to Livingston. That's 4 difficult games. And then you've got at home to Alloa in the League Cup, and Rangers fans won't be confident for that match against a League One team. And Alloa have started the season really well, 2 wins from 2 in League One. They obviously won every game in their Premier Sports Cup group really impressively. There's no way Rangers should be going to that match. And I imagine there will be still Rangers fans that will tell me, I'm confident that we'll beat League One Alloa. But if I was a Rangers fan, I wouldn't be totally confident with what we're seeing domestically. It is really strange, and I don't know how you switch that mentality, but it needs to switch, because Rangers will not achieve any success this season if Russell Martin can't find a formula to sort it out.
Yeah, I just want to touch on a few things, because there was something that really annoyed me yesterday watching the game, and that was that the Rangers manager made a change after 65 minutes, brought in a player, and the Rangers fans started to boo. And that's something that I'm strongly against it. I just don't understand why, no matter who the player is and how you feel about a player, I don't think any club should, or any supporter, should boo a player.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. That there is maybe a few circumstances where it's acceptable to boo your own player, and none of them are football related, to be quite frank. Kieran Dowell has had a rough ride at Rangers, and it's getting to the point where I think a lot of people are starting to feel sorry for him and the treatment that he's getting from his own fans. And yes, you can make the point that he wasn't willing to run for Rangers Football Club last week for Park. And I think Russell Martin touched on it after the game, that he doesn't really sort of look into social media. He's not aware of the Kieran Dowell sort of abuse that he's getting, and the fans sort of really dislike of him as a player, and they really don't want to see him as part of the plans at Rangers. Russell Martin obviously thinks he still has a part of that squad, but I think Russell Martin will know that he has tried to rekindle the Rangers career of someone who last season was a castaway from that Rangers squad, and he's been brought back in. He started the first 3 matches of the season, not performed well in any of them. So I think Russell Martin will be aware of why the sort of abuse is heading Kieran Dowell's way, but that doesn't mean that it's justifiable, and I don't think it really improves Rangers' situation at all, to be honest. I've never really understood that, booing your own team and your own players, but I mean, the fans are entitled. They pay their money, so they're entitled to boo if they're discontent. Obviously, I'd imagine almost all 50,000 that were in the stadium last night would be discontent with that performance and the one that came before it in the league.
Yeah.
Just sorry. Just to step in, there's been another goal in one of the 2 games. Kilmarnock, have pulled one back against Hibs just before half time. Liam Polworth scores on the 45th minute. So both games going in 2-1 to the home side at half time.
Oh, a big second 45 for both teams then, because I fully expected 2 of the matches to be very close, and they've turned out that way even.
Yeah, and again, it's just all the matches have been really entertaining. There's so many surprises being thrown up, and all the teams are competing really closely. I know Aberdeen never really laid a glove on Celtic today, but they still made it difficult for them at times. And Celtic, it wasn't an easy match for them. Look at we'll obviously touch on the games yesterday, touch on the Rangers game. They've been given 2 really tough games that they might have not seen coming. I don't think the players' mentality obviously seen them coming based off the results. And then again, you've got Hearts and Hibs, who are favourites to strive for that 3rd place or compete for that 3rd place, and they're having 2 difficult games against 2 teams that have been tipped for bottom half finishes. So the league's really competitive and really entertaining at the moment, and long may it continue.
I was just going to ask, even see in terms of Rangers, see for me looking at it from the outside, I think it's a mentality thing, because how can the Rangers players get up for it against Celtic and the big European games, and then they put? I mean, see if you said to Russell Martin for his opening 2 matches, they're going to play Motherwell away. We've got a brand new manager, a brand new set of players, and you're playing Dundee, who are struggling to win under Stephen Presley. You probably couldn't have handpicked two easier matches. No disrespect to 2 of the opponents, but if you were Russell Martin looking at that, you're thinking, right, that'll be 6 points out of 6.
Yeah, and that's it. Rangers should expect to win every game in the league. Even games against Celtic, they expect to win as a club. And obviously, they had success against Celtic last season. It was more the other teams that were causing them problems. And it seems so far that that's going to be the problem again, because before we even get to the Celtic match, which I believe is the 4th Premiership match of the season, Celtic, if they win all their matches, could be 7 points clear of Rangers, because Rangers are obviously opting to postpone their match in between the two playoff games, whereas Celtic are choosing to play at home to Livingston. So already Celtic could go 10 points clear of Rangers, and that is just unfathomable to think about, if I can pronounce the word properly.
Yeah, because I think there was real genuine hope with Rangers fans this season. But from what I've seen yesterday on social media, I feel like Rangers fans are really starting to doubt Russell Martin in terms of their Rangers manager quick, because if you look at social media, even I think there's a lot of fans that are thinking, right, that this guy's a bit of a one-trick pony. I mean, I was listening to a lot of podcasts yesterday, and they were talking about maybe Russell Martin's football would be great against a low block. I mean, well, Dundee played a low block yesterday, and Rangers really struggled.
Yeah, exactly. They played against, in the first 5 games of the season, they played against two decent pedigree European teams, which will obviously come and attack Rangers, and have succeeded really, really well. Okay, the performances weren't there against Panathinaikos. I think we all recognise that, but two great scorelines. Then Victoria Poulsen, you get the sort of full package at Ibrox. You get a really solid performance and a really good win, which probably is enough to see them through to the playoff round of the qualifiers. But then in the league, you play against two completely different styles of play. Motherwell try to build from the back, and just played through Rangers. Dundee obviously completely different. They'll sit in a low block and try and frustrate Rangers, and they did. And that's two completely different styles he's went up against as a manager, and he's failed on both occasions. Failed to get the better of his opposite number, and that's just unacceptable when you're playing against clubs. No disrespect, that Rangers should be looking to beat every time.
Yeah, I know we're only on for a short period of time, even so I'll get your thoughts on the Rangers match on Tuesday or Wednesday against Pilsen in Czech Republic.
Yeah, I think it'll be really interesting to see what team lines up, because I think as a whole the tie is probably all but over. I'm not saying that there's no chance that Victoria Poulsen can't come back, but we seen them last week and they were pretty poor. They were miles behind Rangers, and it'll just be interesting because Russell Martin's, with his comments after Fir Park, he's made every lineup a talking point, and it makes it really interesting to see who's going to start, who drops out. Because if it was a mentality problem at Fir Park, then what was it at home to Dundee? Was it a mentality problem again? I don't think he touched on it after the game. But yeah, I think he'll still feel that it's the same problem, and we'll have to see who drops out, who's the one that's mentality has failed them this time.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think if you listen to Billy Dodge last night, he made a great point when he said that see, in terms of the manager, it's okay doing that, like in terms of your very first match. But see if you do it match after match after match, then the players won't buy into it, and eventually they'll just switch off.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would definitely agree with that. He is he's in a really vulnerable state at the minute, because we've seen in the past that, I made the point already, Rangers in Europe have been excellent. The best representation of Scotland and Europe in the past over the past seasons. Obviously, getting to the Europa League final, but domestically they've just fell way below the mark consistently. That's why managers have consistently lost their job, and unless Russell Martin changes that, that'll be why he loses his job as well.
Yeah, and obviously we'll just go on to talk about the final match of the Premiership yesterday, and that was at the Tony Macaroni Arena.
Yeah, a brilliant performance by Livingston, and I don't think many people would have tipped them to be top of the Premiership on back-to-back Saturday nights like they were last week. Obviously, last week was on disciplinary record. They were top of league and last night they were top of the league on points. So no, a great start from David Martindale's team, and it really interesting because obviously Livingston and Falkirk both promoted from the Championship last season. Both have went into this season in completely different ways. Falkirk bring in, I think, 4 new players or something about that. Livingston bring in, I think, 14 new players. So completely different approaches. And so far, you would have to say Livingston's worked better based off yesterday's game. Some really nice goals as well. Lewis Smith with an absolute screamer for Livingston. But yeah, they're looking really good, and I tipped them to finish 11th, I think. So they're overriding my expectations so far, but it still obviously is very early in the season. But it's strange. Falkirk seem to have a problem against Livingston. I think it's a decade or something like that since the last time they won at the Tony Macaroni. So yeah, Dave Martindale seems to have John McGunn's number, and he'll be hoping that he can continue surprising people and maybe be the 3rd team in a row to be promoted and finish in the top 6, which would be a remarkable achievement.
I don't know if you noticed it even, but I was watching the game yesterday and I was watching it live and I was thinking to myself, I know David Martindale is a big advocate for plastic pitches, but I feel like that seems as if there's been a bit of friction over the summer as if it's a brand new pitch.
Yeah, I think they did. They did try and improve that pitch, and yeah, I seen that watching the highlights that it did look a lot better. I think a few players went off injured, which maybe doesn't help the pro plastic pitch conversation or debate. But yeah, it does look a lot better, and Livingston look a lot better than they were when they last were in the Premiership. Obviously, really disappointing and relegated by quite a distance. And they'll be hoping that they can pull off. Well, it would be the surprise of the season if Livingston got top 6. I know David Martindale always bats on about it, but financially they are really down the bottom of that league, and they've just brought in loads of players, and they're all competing for places. And one of the old shining lights, Scott Pittman, 2 goals in 2 games. He's been one of the standouts. Falkirk, yeah, you would be a wee bit worried about them if you were a fan, because that's the team that you sort of measure yourself against, and you wouldn't want them to be doing better than you. Livingston, and obviously that they have done it. Isn't always the case that the team who finished higher in the league below does better in the league above. And I know it's very early. I'm not saying Falkirk can't turn it around and do spectacular things this season, but yeah, a bit of a slow start after a decent result against Dundee United last weekend. A good penalty save from Scott Bain, I seen, and he seems to have started decently well at Falkirk. And another thing, I think Falkirk started with 11 Scottish players yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. So that's a pretty good start. They started with 10 last week. The only one who wasn't Scottish was Scott Arfield, and I think, let's say, you know what I'm getting at there. So yeah, I think that's the positive thing for Falkirk, as looking in from a neutral point of view, that they're giving the opportunity to the Scottish players and young Scottish players to show their talents in the top division, and hopefully we can see more of that across the board.
Yeah, and obviously I just want to touch on them as well, because they look a good team, that they're playing good football, but I think they also need new players as well, because you look at some of the players, I mean, they're very good players for Scottish football level, but they still need a little bit more, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think I looked at the squad, and although they've kind of got 2 players in every position, and that's what you aim for at least, I think John McGlynn done this when he got promoted from League One a couple of seasons ago. He kept a lot of the League One players and didn't really strengthen that much for the Championship. Obviously, it worked out brilliantly for him. They go back-to-back title winners. So he's kind of tried that approach again. Just brought in a couple of experienced campaigners, your Brian Grahams and your Scott Baines. And they looked really good against Dundee United and could have easily won that game. But and they do play good football, but Livingston just were fully deserving in that result. And They'll need to bounce back now, Falkirk, because it doesn't get any easier from here. And obviously they've got a difficult trip to Celtic Park now in the Premier Sports Cup on Friday, and they'll look to cause an upset like they looked like they might do for a lot of the game last year when the two teams played in the same stage.
Yeah, and obviously, well, I think we've got basically 5 minutes to go, Ethan. But I just wanted to ask you about, is there any other scores this weekend that have stood out for you in the lower leagues?
Not really. Not in particular. I think there was a few. I think we forgot to mention St Mirren Motherwell, but there wasn't really many talking points there anyway. But both of those teams, I actually watched that game, and I'll just quickly mention. I think Motherwell looked good in the first half. They sort of played the same style they did against Rangers. St Mirren didn't really pressure them like a lot of people imagined, but St Mirren had some big chances in the second half. A decent point for both of those teams, and despite them being towards the bottom half of the league, I think both fans will be happy with their starts to the season. To decent performances in both games from those teams. And then in the lower leagues, St Johnstone beating Ross County, a really big result, and I think St Johnstone have shown over the first two games that they are the real standouts in that league, and they are big favourites to go back up under Simo Valakari. The other one that I think I already mentioned them, Alloa, winning again. 6 wins from 6 so far this season. They look really good to win that League One and get promoted. I know it's really early, but they've already beat a Premiership and Championship team this season, so they've been really impressive. Any other teams that stick out for you?
For me, I think it's got to be Cy Ferry and Kennedy up at East and the East Kilbride, because they got their first victory yesterday, and they'll be really fancying the chances up at EK.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, definitely. I think them and possibly Dumbarton will be the favourites for that league too. So yeah, Dumbarton getting another win as well. So yeah, nice. It's really interesting across the leagues, and obviously we break now for Premier Sports Cup action. But yeah, the league season is looking really entertaining. I'm glad to have Scottish football back. I'm just checking the score. There's been another goal at Easter Road. Kilmarnock have equalised. So 2-0 down to each. Ben Brannan, the young 18-year-old wing-back who sort of burst onto the scene, Micah Richards style, in the Premier Sports Cup. I think he got 3 goals in that competition from left wing-back, and he started the season with another goal here in his second game. So yeah, he's one to watch this season. But no, 2 brilliant games going on at the minute. And yeah, it's been a really entertaining couple of match days to kick us off.
Yeah, Ethan, and I just wanted to thank you for joining me. Obviously we've got a big week of European football to talk about this week, so please join us. Obviously we've got Rangers during the week against Victoria Pilsen. Then we have Dundee United against Rapid Vienna. That's going to be some game.
Yeah, definitely. I think Rangers, you would imagine they're already through. The other two, less so. I think Hibs will be massive favourites now. They shouldn't see that tie as done, but a 2-0 win away in Belgrade is an absolutely excellent result. But I think the result of the week was Dundee United. I didn't give them a chance, to be honest. But no, brilliant. Zachary Sapsford, I thought, was excellent. And yeah, hopefully they can pull it. They can do the unthinkable and knock out Rapid Vienna and progress to the playoff round. And it would be brilliant to even have 4 Scottish teams in Europe, never mind 5. So yeah, hopefully the sort of the start to Scottish football, which I think has been really entertaining, can be coupled with European success from the Premiership clubs.
Okay, well, thank you for joining me, Finn, and remember to tell your friends about Scottish Football Zone, and please subscribe to the channel. Thank you.
Bye.
You're watching the Scottish Football Zone with all the build-up and reactions